All right, Canada, or anyone else that's willing to listen to this video. I'm going to delve into even deeper this time because of all the crazy headline articles that have been propagated and put forth and presented within the last couple weeks here. Even though I've known that this kind of situation has been happening and been escalating for a long time now, I feel it's ramped up enough now that it's time to dig deeper into the fundamentals and start dealing with this reality that nobody else, well, very few people want to talk about head on, because they realize that it's going to cause a whole lot of pain, hardships, and anguish for everyone involved. But you know what? In the face of such bullshit, I find it extremely important. Actually, those are the times when it is more important than ever to stand up. And this is all about the oppression, the derision, the hatred that's presented and put forth by the establishment media, the special interest groups, and the lobbyists towards the typical white male, the blue-collar white male in particular. But they'll throw any white male under the bus at this stage of the game because they look at you. If you have white skin and you're male, seemingly strong, independent, have nothing to do with collectivism, are not part of any government group or gang, if you're not part of the collective, you are their enemies. Even though everything, all the benefits, all the amenities, all the wealth, and all the capacities that most people enjoy are a direct result of the blue-collar white male in particular, these special interest groups, now that they realize they can use robots, slaves from different countries, they don't care about you anymore. And you must recognize that they're willing to throw you under the bus any chance they get. They've got new slaves. They've got a new way of doing things. They don't have to coddle you. They don't have to stroke your ego anymore to keep you in place and complacent and good little wage slaves and serfs. They're willing to ramp up the rhetoric and lambaste you and show their vile and hatred towards you. First headline is from the Feminist Current. Not that I pay attention to anything about this particular page, the Feminist Current, but it just happened to show up on my Facebook feed, and I said, the headline caught my interest, or caught my eye. The headline reads, "It's time to consider a curfew for men." See, this is the problem with collectivists. They don't look to, if there's a man that rapes a woman, they don't look to just punish that man. No. They make that man they pretend that man is the direct representative of all of the rest of men. So that's what collectivists do. That's how their brain functions. They don't have the ability to separate and understand and recognize the individual. So they'd love to throw all men under the bus for the actions of a few. Where have I seen that kind of ideology before? Yeah, every vile, despicable collective ideology, communism, socialism, every form of collectivism that humankind has known, they're always willing to throw who they perceive as their opponents. They're more than willing to not just throw them under the bus. They'll incarcerate them, beat them, socially degrade them. In the case of many other collective ideologies, of the past, they'll throw you in ovens. Mass graves are dotted all over the world from collectivists who will do anything to silence or quell the voices of their opposition, of any individual who dares to speak out against their ideology. They are the ones that are the most dangerous, not the so-called genuine conservatives, limited government, even people that believe in religions like Christianity stuff. Yes, some of them can be vile, and some of the rhetoric they spew is pretty nasty. But rhetoric is all rhetoric. You know, a preacher standing pounding the pulpit, right? Even crying, even with passionate pleas. It all falls on deaf ears for the most part for anyone that follows any of the establishment religions as far as Christianity is concerned, because the proper principles are already established in the mind of most of those people. But the collectivists, especially the atheist collectivists, they don't have that moral compass guiding them in any way, shape, or form. They see things in black and white. That's it. Either you're with us or you're against us. And if you're against them, there's just no limitation to what the kind of vile and despicable acts of oppression they will use against you. Right up to death. And because most of them are sociopaths, they'll sleep very well tonight. Anytime, matter of fact, they probably sleep peacefully because they revel and enjoy the oppression of those they deem their opponents, their enemies. Pretty vicious, pretty vile. Mao, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, all of them. I mean, the list is a long one. They cheerlead the demise and destruction of anyone that challenges their ideology. Now, Christianity or Christians might say, I smite thee, or whatever, right? But because their particular God lives in a sphere outside of the real world that we live in, there's no cause and effect correlation directly of, you can try. You can't pray for the death of your opponent and see that actually translate into real world actions. But you can go to your government overlords, your masters, your collective masters, and ask them to oppress those or kill those who challenge your authority. And you can watch that play out in real time. It's happening all around us every day. Next, Eugel Dosange. By silencing white men, Canada can't have an honest debate about equality, race, and culture. This is from the National Post, January 4th, 2016. And yeah, I agree. I actually recommend anyone read this article. He's not even a white man, but he recognizes himself that, yeah, we are the new oppressed. Back in the day, when it was the Jews or when it was the, whoever was oppressed at any particular time, well, it's the white man's turn. Especially the blue-collar white man. Look around you. And the worst part about the most devastating aspect of that particular fact is the typical blue-collar white male in the modern world represents the alphas for the most part. And think about it. When you're talking about alphas from the animal kingdom or in the human realm, these are the types of people that don't cry or whine or beg and plead their masters for leniency. They just do what they got to do to sustain their living, to provide for themselves and their family. So for the most part, their suffering is done in silence. Special interest groups, the ones that the media propagandists and the pundits promote. Oh, their fucking sob stories are spread all over the internet and the media, and you'll hear about it rampant on a continual, regular basis. But you will never hear about the suffering, or very sparsely will you hear about the suffering of the average blue-collar white male, especially middle-aged, middle-class, private sector white male. Those who have gone their entire lives, people such as myself, I count myself into that group. Well, I'm an individual inside that group. But yeah, I am. I've never chosen to go in any government. I could be right now. I mean, I have the intellect, the capabilities. I could become a statist. I could be massively wealthy by becoming a corporatist or a statist. If I chose to succumb to the ideology of collectivism, yeah, man, I know I could have wealth beyond belief. I have that capacity. I have that capability. Many of us do. But we don't want nothing to do with it. So we suffer in silence. We do what we got to do to push on, survive, and sustain our livelihoods in the face of all this bullshit. There's no one out there lobbying to protect us. We have to protect ourselves because we're perceived as the strong ones, even though we are strong. It's like, you could have like an alpha lion is strong. And if you challenge no other, all the betas, they can challenge the alpha individually and they will lose every time. But if you take an entire army, an entire collective of betas, they can overcome and overpower even the strongest individual. But because they do it underhandedly, deceivingly, and imperceivable to the general public, because they're manipulators, master manipulators, it's barely recognized on the surface. And most people, that's the only place they look is on the surface. They don't dig down in to see what's truly happening. Most people have a very extremely limited attention span. They won't put any effort in unless it's for their own purpose. Affects them directly. They won't look to try to understand what's truly happening. Police investigating poll asking Newfoundland students to rate ugliest girls in their grade 9 classroom. So think about it, even if you're someone from the Generation X, my group, or even some of these old baby boomers, you know yourself, there was always times in history where guys rated girls or girls rated guys. It's not a guy-girl thing, but they make this out. This article is about guys rating girls, and they almost tried to make it into a criminal act. I mean, think about that. And it's a national headline in a national news outlet in Canada that police are investigating, which police are only investigating. If the police are involved, it's a criminal investigation. They could try to twist and distort that and spin that narrative as much as they want. But if the police are investigating, police are only supposed to investigate criminal activities. So we're trying to turn grade 9 students who created some kind of poll to rate whoever's the ugliest girls in their class or their school. These collectivists are using the power of the state, the direct threat of force against grade 9 students for putting on a poll. Who's really being the bullies here? What? The kids, these young grade 9 students who put this poll on? They haven't inflicted any physical harm on anyone. Maybe a little butt hurt, maybe. But then look what the reaction is. Look at the ramp up. They go from seemingly benign, avoidable, ignorable fucking, comments determine who was ugly or who is pretty, which, I mean, that's all subjective, right? Some people think some people are pretty, anyways. But the reaction is to try to incarcerate, in prison, charge criminally those acts. The people that did these things. I mean, That's pretty vile, no? I think so. And yes, crash trucks, dead mice, and porn inside the firefighting scandal tearing apart a Newfoundland town. Here's this one lone woman that chose to go into the profession of being a volunteer firefighter in a small town in Newfoundland, where 20 of her peers, including the chief of that fire department, were all males. Maybe on occasion when they were sitting around their firehouse and not doing anything at the particular time, I guess might have looked at a little porn, maybe acted a little bit inappropriate, according to this woman. But what happened? All 20 of them now have resigned, so the people in the community of this place basically have no fire department, have to rely on external resources from external communities. And why? To protect this one woman. So rather than this one woman who decided to go into a completely male-dominated profession, well, she wanted to dominate those 20 men or them to conform to her particular preferences and opinions. And because they didn't, well, now they've all chosen to leave. It's not like they're volunteers, but they've chosen to leave their occupation. I mean, if they were volunteers, they were compassionate people trying to help out others. But yet this woman doesn't recognize that. She would rather destroy all of their lives and the community's potential response times to potential hazards and dangers of fire because she didn't like the way they acted. Women have grown to or not all women, but these feminazi bitches, they have grown to have such a high sense of entitlement in today's world. And yet they talk about being oppressed. Could you imagine if you lived in a country like, let's say, Saudi Arabia, where oppression of women is real and rampant? Could you imagine trying to pull this stunt off? She'd have fucking had her head cut off long ago. But that's the thing. The fact that she can stand proudly and spew this kind of nonsense and destroy an entire fire department, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of underlying fundamentals that's happening here. And I'll leave you to figure them out on your own. And yes, we can't forget anyone that's been paying attention this week. Now, first of all, I'm super happy that there is still the odd activist judge that's willing to stand up, although I'm fairly certain this was a male judge and he was probably looking to protect himself, or some people that, some male, maybe his successive generation males, and he recognized that, well, I better do something to protect them. And thank goodness for that. Because, yeah, this Gregory Allen Elliott was charged criminally charged for having an argument/debate with these self-admitted feminist activists on Twitter. In the Twitterverse, where you know what it is, everyone that uses Twitter knows, or Facebook knows, you're just typing words onto a screen. The people that are on the other side of the conversation have no way to directly hurt you physically in any way, shape, or form. They can hurt your feelings. That's it. They can hurt your feelings. That is it. But even that only happens if you choose to continue in the interaction. If you choose not to interact, they can't do a thing to you in the cybersphere. But yet these ladies, once again, what happened? So this guy got to an argument, obviously won the argument towards these two ladies. That's the thing. There was two ladies and one guy. So he was already outnumbered. But because these two ladies, obviously, I shouldn't even be calling them ladies. These two bitches probably is what they are. I mean, for the fact of what they did, yeah. But they chose, well, I mean, they obviously felt that they lost the argument because they chose to get the state involved, to bring in the power of the government. They chose to use that force, the potential to incarcerate, imprison, destroy, maybe this guy could have lost, he would have lost his job, his livelihood, would not have been able to provide for his family. Think of how destructive that was, because he dared to have an argument/debate with these ladies, these women, these vile, pathetic women, in the cyberspace. I mean, if that don't disturb every man, I don't even care if one of your ladies that you love so much is one of these feminazi bitches. If you don't recognize, I mean, you might like to be impressed yourself. Some guys like to be spanked even. But there are a lot of us that don't. If you can't recognize that you're fucking allowing all this shit to happen is one of the causes for the destruction of the male ego, for the destruction of individualness when it comes to the men being able to be who they are, to let men just be men. I mean, think about what this means. You have to think in the proper manner. Don't let you just stupid raw emotion in the fact that, if you're a woman, don't let the fact that you have tits and these women happen to have tits be the sole deciding factor of where you fall, on which side you fall onto, and defending and showing solidarity with. Thank goodness this judge threw this case out, said no, you cannot criminally charge a man just because he beat you in a debate and an argument online in the Twitterverse. Deal with your butt hurt, go the fuck home, buck up, and learn to fight another day, ladies. Chris Nelson from the Calgary Herald article. Alberta's nanny state is squeezing the life out of life. Oh, yeah, the nanny state is rampant, whether it's not being allowed to toboggan, build skating rinks in your backyard. You've probably seen, the countless string of articles that are constantly propagated and put forth by the political propagandists that basically have outlawed almost every form of fun, especially if it's a kind of fun that men, strong, independent, white men, the kind of fun we enjoy is being criminalized. Because the women don't like it. They hate to see a man having fun because they're fucking miserable. These women are miserable in their own lives, so they can't stand to see anyone else having fun. They want to bring men down to their level. They want misery loves company. You get that, right? Misery loves company. If they can't be happy, they don't want anyone else to be happy either. And this last, I don't know, I'm not even going to spend much time with this, but once again, headline news in another, this is CBC News. Billboard mocking women drivers prompts female auto mechanic shop owner to fight back. Sign was meant to be cute, says business manager who posted the offending sign. So once again, somebody posted a little bit of a jokey kind of a sign towards female drivers, right? And deny it all you want. You've probably heard it many times in your life. Some guy saying, fucking women drivers or this or that, right? Now that is throwing all women on the bus because obviously not all women are but once again, it's words. It's words. Not like men are going out lobbying the government saying women shouldn't be allowed to drive. This ain't Saudi Arabia. Women have full access, just like men, to driving vehicles anytime, anyhow they please. Right? Within the confines of the law. Although that's the thing. Women, for the most part, aren't daring drivers. They're not the ones that want to, race around the tracks like men do. Men, we have a natural competitive spirit built, entrenched in our psyche. It's there. It can't be bred out of some of us. But yet women can't stand that fact. And when they see that that's translated in almost every activity that we do, they want to be able to control and manipulate that. But anyways, like I say. So this whole video, as you see, and this is just within all these articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 7 of these articles are just within the last week, week and a half. That's just a week and a half's worth of constant derision and hatred and disdain towards men. You wonder why I'm starting to make some of these videos defending, especially the strong, independent, private sector, hard working, blue collar male. Oh yeah, you better believe I'm going to defend them. For one, I'm one of them. For two, I recognize that as those people who have toiled, sweated, bled, broken their bodies down over decades of hard work and labor, and mental anguish, and trying to build the modern world that we live in today, only to be spit on and degraded after all is said and done. You better believe I'm going to defend those type of people. I am that kind of a person. There's nothing I enjoy more than some good, solid, hard work and being productive and knowing at the end of the day that I have done good for not just myself to provide for me and my family, but to create an environment and an atmosphere where people have all the modern amenities and conveniences and comforts that has resulted from hard work from people such as myself. I take great pride in doing these things. I want to provide. I want to be a good provider for not just my family, but for everyone. I don't mind that because I come first, but I recognize that there's a glory in providing for others as well. But not when they're going to spit back at me because they don't like maybe what I do in my off time. Because maybe they don't like some of my, traits that they don't have themselves. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.